known, one beyond my wildest dreams. Maybe that road could have carried me to streets of gold, but things aren't always as they seem. Looking back on all the chances that I missed, some I held, some slipped away. One street over where my memories exist, I wondered what would change, I really couldn't say. In this life there's nothing certain, except the curtain that rises to the stage. Silly games of second guessing, I just forget the lessons that I couldn't learn. Because one street over there's a life I could have known that would have kept me from the one I have today.
Robertson County. Good morning, good morning. How you doing on this beautiful November morning? It's going to be a beautiful day. Hey guys, I'm Michelle Laverne, and this is One Street Over, an opportunity for you to see what's going on one street over from where you live in. And okay, I know yesterday I said we got Terry Wilson coming in. He's our veteran service officer here in Robertson County, and this is his normal day. He comes in on the first Wednesday of the month. He has got some things, just had some conflicts. It was so funny because I get home, last night was CR here at Epiphany Baptist Church that I go to. And so I'm there and I have my phone on silent. So I get home, it's probably, I don't know, 9 o'clock. And I look and my phone has exploded with all these texts and calls that I had missed, that he had a conflict, and Lee Marie has got it all figured out, as she always does, because she's just that good. And she's like, okay, Terry can't be there, and so he wants to take a rain check, and so can Susan Hunter come, and then I can come because I had Susan on Go Show. And just, I love it because it's just hysterical. I love you, sister. Thank you so much. You're just always wonderful. And you just, I don't know how you do what you do. I really don't. Lee Marie, Go Show. And just my friend. And, you know, I often talk about, I ran into Sabi Kumar, I don't know, a little while ago. When was it? I think it was at the Recovery Court graduation. And he was like, where are you? Because, you know, I was in the political world for a while. And people don't realize, whenever I stepped into the political fray to run for Congress, I had not been political. I've always been political in the sense that I stay very involved in my country. I stay very informed. I carry very passionately for giving our country back to Jesus Christ and God and seeing what He will do with it as we recommit and renew our covenant before Him. So I'm a big old Jesus freak, and if it can fall in line with that, then I'm all on board.
Amen.
So I felt very led by God to run for Congress. And I was somebody who advised me that it would be a really good idea. I told myself I feel a little bit hypocritical because I've not been associated really with any parties. I just consider myself a patriot and more of an independent. And they encouraged me. They said, well, the Republican Party needs people like you. And so that's the reason I stepped into the fray. But the minute it's over now, and I feel very strong that God has told me, politics, go away from it. And I'm back where I was before my run. So now I'm to the point, I'm like, what was that all about, God? And I see so clearly, this show wouldn't have happened had it not been for that, because I made connections with that. My friendship with you, I don't know would have ever happened. The Southergills, who I love and I have not seen forever, and I'm a terrible friend. There's a preacher I follow, Christy McClellan, and I think it was, I can't remember who said this. I listened to so many of them, but they said something about this is something from The Chosen, I heard. Whenever the actors are acting and something was said, I think Thomas was talking to Christ, and this is again from The Chosen. This is fictitious, but it's a supposing. And he's wanting to stop and see his friend Nathaniel. And he's like, if we have time, Rabbi. And he's like, well, if we don't make time for our friends, we won't have any. And that just echoes in my mind so much when I think about people like you and the Southergills and all these wonderful friendships I made while I was running for office. And I say to you, I love you, and God put all that together for a reason. And I think even the door, Lee Marie, of me teaching.
Yeah.
was opened because of all that.
That's right.
So I can look back and go, okay, it was kind of a crazy path to go, Lord, but I guess that's what you were setting me on.
Right,
And,
exactly.
Yeah, and he may say, okay, I need you to go do this, and I may get back into politics. I don't think so. I don't think that's ever going to open back up. I don't really feel that. I feel very pulled to ministry, and of course the whole teaching thing. I'm like, okay, let's do it.
Yeah, and sometimes we don't know. You know,
No.
when he says something like, run for Congress, and we run and we don't make it.
Yeah.
We go, what? But that wasn't the purpose. It wasn't to be a congressperson. It was to have these other connections.
Yeah.
So
Who knows?
he sees the big picture. We don't.
Yes,
we
he
need to make sure that
does.
we always leave him in charge and not try to
Absolutely.
manage it.
But I say all that to say I'm so thankful for that door that opened my friendship. I remember the first time I met with you was at the Southergills,
right.
and what's hysterical is I had gotten, as you do when you're involved in politics, you can find the people who are your constituents, the people who would supposedly be of like mind. And so I sent out notes within this Robertson County area and said, hey, I'm running for Congress. I think I'm just like you. Can we get together and have coffee? Jerry's the only one who took me up on it. He said, okay, come on. And he had a gathering at his home, and him and Ellen, and you were there. And you hadn't been in town that long. I mean, you've
Right.
been here about a year. Maybe.
Maybe not even a year. I do
Yeah.
know that I had some other things that day. And
Yeah.
I wasn't going to be able to go except for like 5 minutes or
Yeah.
something. And he's like, well, just come for 5. I'm like, all right. And I did. I just got in at the tail end of it, got to meet you, and then kabang.
Kabang, yeah. And then it's so funny, whenever all this things started happening, and after the congressional run, and I'm retired from, for those of you who don't, I mean, I spent 28 years as Utah Laverne. I spent a year and a half working for Glenn Beck down at the Blaze in Dallas, commuting back and forth. And then when that ended, that was a temporary thing. And that was just God. I got to do TV. It was fun. It was cool. And, but it was not where I needed to be. I came back here, got involved in ministry, went full time, and really felt like that's where God wanted me, because I felt the calling to, I'm a Church of Christ, and yes, I have felt the calling to preach and lead worship and all of that ever since I was a child. I know y'all say that's not the job for a girl. You are wrong. I am convinced with all of my heart we have got that so wrong. The shackles we put on the women in the church, and we got to get over it. We have just got to, and I believe that's something He has purposed me for, is to help in gentleness and respect lead you to that understanding. And some Friday real soon, and I don't think it's going to be this Friday. I kind of have been delayed booking some of my Faith Fridays that are open, because I have on my heart really to share with you what I've been studying about women's role in the church. And one of these days I'm going to unpack it, because I want my elders because my family is Church of Christ, and not because I completely agree with the theology of it, because I do not, but because they're my family. I mean, that's who I've grown up with, and I love them. And if I think there's something that they're a little misstepped on, I'm going to try to help open and say, look at this, look at this, look at this. And so, and with gentleness and respect. And so, because I do worship under the guy, I worship with the Madison Church of Christ, and we have a body of elders. And so because of that, I am going to adhere to their guidance, because they're trying to keep peace and harmony in our congregation. So I'm not going to stomp my feet and say, well, I don't agree with that. I'm going to submit myself to them and say, can we please look at this? So my plan is, because what I want to unpack is going to take more than 10 or 15 minutes. And oftentimes when we gather in our congregation for meetings, you only have about 10 or 15 minutes. And so because it's going to take a little longer than that to unpack that, one Friday, I'm going to unpack all the things I've been studying about women's role in the church, and to share it with you guys. And I've shared bits and pieces of it, but I'm also going to, so I can go to my leadership in my congregation and say, go listen to that. Go listen to that. And there's 2 or 3 things. I mean, there's so much. If you're not deep in Bible study, you just don't know what you're missing, man. I just find some preachers that you can connect with, and worship leaders. And my favorites right now are Christy McClellan. If you've not discovered her, oh my goodness. She has a thing called New Lens Bible, and you can go and study a lot of the stuff she teaches at Williamson College, and she's just incredible. I love Bobby Davis. Carrie Roberts and I have talked about Bobby Davis a couple of times. I thought it was hysterical that he has discovered him too from Cookeville out at Life Church, my own I love Russ Corley. I love Nathan Hale, who preaches churches. I mean, those are our people. Tom Hayden up at the Northfield Church is another one I follow. Jason Ball over at Centerpoint in Hendersonville. Those are the ones who I land on, who I listen to just all the time. So those are mine. Now, who are yours? And if you're getting up in the morning and feeling yourself full of all the things going on in the world, stay in touch. And we're going to talk a little bit about that because the election is coming up, and we got to do that. That's our responsibility. We got to talk about tomorrow's the last day to early vote, I think, right? And so something I quote a lot of the time with Bobby Davis is and it gave me so much peace right after the last election where I was devastated because I just saw my country turning in a way that broke my heart. And I cannot say enough about Shannon Baumgartner coming in here and telling me, she was just all bubbly, and it was like at that moment I was like, how are you not just crestfallen?
She was on the last Go show. If you have not seen that episode,
I need
you
to go
have
watch
to.
it. Well, she's been on here a few times since then too, talking about it, but I will listen to it.
Yeah, because we are now watching these videos, Biblical Foundations of Freedom. And we did that discussion last Wednesday.
Yeah.
She just sent me a praise report yesterday that she had shared that the show, and this man actually watched the video, reconciled with his son, then also is now reconciling with his wife and forgiving himself, and just transforming that household from watching that show and then consequently watching the Biblical Foundations of Freedom videos. So last Wednesday's Go show, definitely watch, and there's a link that will get you to those 4 videos that we're talking about.
Awesome. Okay, now I've got new material to watch.
Yes, you do.
Well, good, because see, I've kind of run out of new stuff because I've listened to like all these preachers and listened about everything that they've put out, and I've just restarted listening to some of Christy's stuff. She has some that she says, because she's a professor and she's got a very professorial tone to her, and she says you have to hear something 27 times, they say, before it's. And so I'm going to listen to what I need to listen to really ingrain it in my brain 27 times, I guess. But I would love to hear something new.
And
I need new material. So.
Yeah, and the author of that book is Art Matthias.
Okay.
So just in case.
Outstanding. But Shannon, she came in here and she told me, I just couldn't understand how she could be so full of joy. And if you've listened to me long, you've heard this. And she said to me, she goes, because every morning I give God my first fruits. Every morning I give God my first fruits. And that can be unpacked in a way of maybe it's just a moment of silence and saying, Lord, this is your day. Or maybe it's praise and worship music, or maybe it's listening to my sermons that I'm obsessed with. But I started doing that. I quit listening because my routine to that moment had been to flip on 99.7 because I'm a radio geek and I love all my friends. Pamela Furr, by the way, is going to be filling in for Michael Del Giorno today. Listen to her. Love her. And so I'm a radio geek and I want to hear what's going on in the world. And it would just absolutely harden my day and break my heart because of what I was hearing. And so I immediately stopped doing that, and I can't begin to tell you the transformation. If you're one of my close friends, you've seen the transformation that it's made in me. I mean, beyond not walking around in worry and fear is just an absolute joy for life and giving it to Him. I mean, everything. One of the hardest things I walk through is my son's faith, because I've got one that's not a believer right now. Hardest thing in the world to deal with is a parent. But nonetheless, it's His. I give it to God.
That's right.
And it's only because of seeking that peace every morning that I can do that. And I give it all to Him. And so anyway, I didn't mean to get off on that, but I love this lady. And I'm so thankful for the journey God put me on to open up friendships like we have. And to open up this, and now I'm a teacher, and oh my goodness, what is He going to do with all these things?
Well, see, and that's the thing. We really have to just leave everything to God because that's how I even got here, too, at the radio station. I was looking for a ministry to be involved with, and I kept praying, and I kept trying different things, and God's like, no. And then finally God said, radio. I'm like, radio? And He said, Laverne. Actually, no, He said Laverne. He usually speaks.
Wow.
And I said, Laverne, that's not a ministry. He said, yes, radio, Laverne. I'm like, all right. So I said, do you want someone to come help, blah, blah, blah.
Is that what opened the door to you coming and helping produce? Wow.
That was it. It was just a God thing. I've never done radio in my life. I never had any desire to. And that's where
You're
God...
good at it.
it's all a God thing, because other things that I thought I was good at or trained at and I tried to do and those doors were shutting here.
Yeah.
The radio door just swung open. So I'm like,
wild.
all right, Lord, this is great, because I told the Lord, whatever you want us to do, we will do. Just tell us.
Right.
And I'm having a blast.
Well,
I really am.
you're such a natural. That's why I keep telling her about it. I said, it's so funny because I've never really understood why all of a sudden you just said, hey, can I come help produce your show? And I was like, sure. Yeah, sure. No problem. Because, and I needed help because I literally have 3 jobs that, I do radio, I teach, and I'm part-time minister. Those are, I get, tax statements from those people every year that I have to, but then I'm a photographer, and I'm really pouring into that because we're trying to use the property that the Lord has made us stewards of in a way to just, I don't know, it just seems, it's almost like if we don't do something with that property, it's like keeping my talents buried in the soil and not helping them develop. And it's not necessarily, I hope he'll do something through ministry with that. And maybe it's just that I don't know. I meet so many young people who don't feel like they have a lot of worth, and maybe I can take their pictures and let them see how beautiful they are. Because there's so much beauty out there. There's not a person alive that's not beautiful.
Right.
And if you can't see that, then come talk to me, and I won't charge you a penny, man. I'll take your pictures. But I don't know. I don't mean to get off on that, but I don't know what all God's doing with me. I've got a lot of jobs is my point, and I needed some help.
Well, especially at that time, because it was starting out, and so
exactly.
you didn't have your regular
Yeah, I
setup.
didn't have my setups,
So
yeah.
now, I've pulled back because I don't, you have your regular
yeah.
first Wednesday, first Thursday.
Yeah, exactly.
Although
And-
I still get some people that want to be on,
and
so
I
I shoot
appreciate
them
it.
to you.
Well, just like Susan is coming in here. Is she here? Did she walk in?
is here.
Okay, so Terry cannot be here, and he just had some things going on. And so we want to keep that military theme because this is the day we normally talk with Veteran Service Officer Terry Wilson, and we'll get him in here another day. But you tell me what you were unpacking for the Go Show, and you're like, hey, we can move this up into
That's
one
right.
street over. So
right.
talk
So
to me.
Susan was going to be on the Go Show, which we
Okay.
still will have her on. Just covering a little bit different topic, but we'll still have her on. But I did want to cover a couple things just because there's so much coming up.
Sure.
All
Go
right,
ahead.
so today is Wednesday, and every first Wednesday of the month, I don't know if you know this, but they have Experience Springfield. So those are meetings at the chamber at 9 a.m. Now, it's not open. It is open to everyone. It's not affiliated with chamber membership. So you
Okay.
can go and talk about events, because what this is it's just opening up the communication so that all the different people know what events are happening.
Okay.
So anybody can go to that. And so as far as I know, it's still on for today at 9 a.m. So I wanted to just tell people about that. This Friday, of course, is First Friday. So we're having the Wild Doc on the Go Show. Immediately after that, he is headed over to the Health Kick for his first ever in-store appearance over there with some free consultations. So yes, from 9:30 to 10:30 this Friday only. So you can, if you don't want to drive all the way to Clarksville and you want to meet him, or you just want to ask him a quick question, whatever, he is going to be there, and while supplies last, he'll be there from 9:30 to 10:30.
He's my chiropractor, y'all. I drive to Clarksville for him. I had a chiropractor for 20 years that had an injury in an accident, and we couldn't find another chiropractor, and we went to several. Finally met him and went to see him, and we've been so like, come to Springfield, and but we go to Clarksville for him.
Well, I would love
Yeah.
to see him do like some office hours at
I
Health
would
Kick.
love for him to do some
And those
office
of you
hours
that,
here.
yeah, those of you that don't know where Health Kick is, it's right next to UPS, which is right next to the pawn shop, which is right next to HG Hill.
Yes.
So y'all know where it is. Okay, so that is this Friday. And then, of course, this Saturday, a couple things. The American Legion is doing their turkey shoot, and they need volunteers
Yes.
to help put up the targets. So every Saturday in November, they need your help. So please, you can text me at 714-925-2689. Again, that's 714-925-2689. Tell me what Saturdays you can help, starting at 7:45, going as late as 12:30, and any little shifts in there, just helping to put up the paper targets. We really need help for that. And then also this Saturday, of course, is the GOP
breakfast.
Thank you. Over at Purpose Life Church, 805 Memorial Boulevard, and that's 8:30 is the potluck and 9 o'clock's the speaker. So some of the people that are going to be on the ballot coming up will be invited to speak at that. And then I did want to let you know about the next TFA because it's our best one of the year because it's the Thanksgiving feast.
Oh, of course.
So it was so awesome last time. I mean,
what night is that coming up Monday?
It's not this coming Monday. It's November 14th.
November 14th.
So how we remember that is the Second Amendment meets on the second Monday.
Nice. Okay, I like that.
So
that
that's
helps
November
me.
14th.
That helps me.
Yes. And that is over, again, at the American Legion Post 45 right there in Greenbrier. So we hope you all come out. It's a free meeting. We're going to have a speaker. Matter of fact, Mr. Gaddis is going to speak. He teaches at Guns and Leather in Greenbrier, and he was on SWAT and just has a lot of great stories. So he will be the speaker on November 14th. So we hope you all come out. It's all ages. You know, we've been really growing. The last few meetings, we've had over 50 people. And
Seriously.
Kids and everything. Yeah. So we hope that you guys will come out to that. And you can stay tuned for me after this because at 8 o'clock I will be coming on The Go Show and we'll hear more from Susan Hunter. But right now I'm going to go bring her in while you do a commercial.
That sounds great. I love her. She's just so good. She just took so naturally to radio. And what's so funny is Ilyu knew it. And he's like, she kept trying to bring in subs and he's like, you do it. You do it. I love it. Ilyu saw it. He's got that. And this is, you want to be a part of what's happening here at Ebenezer Broadcasting. This is a Christian worldwide broadcast company. You need to get in touch with Ilyu Maldonado, our president of Ebenezer Broadcasting, and just see and join this ministry, as Lee Marie said. Okay, I want you to be sure and check out Corbin Creek Greenhouse Gifts and Gardening Center because they are just great friends and great sponsors of this program. They have been around for a very, very long time. Miss Amy is just wonderful. She is so knowledgeable about so many things, and she is an expert when it comes to all the things gardening. If you want to know, what do I plant here? What do I plant there? Brian Pooley said they got all of their bedding plants for their garden from Corbin this year. And he says it's the best garden they've ever had. They make sure that their plants are well rooted, and that is key to making sure that you get the plants that you need. If you need plant life during the colder months, go in and look through the greenhouse. There's always beautiful succulents and house plants that they can hook you up with. They are your CBD source. You got to be so careful. If you're going to use CBD to help you with inflammation issues, you've got to make sure you're getting what you think you're getting. And Robertson County CBD is what you're going to get at Corbin Creek. It is produced from the plants that her brother Bill grows. If you want to look at the salves and things like that, they make that in their house. She and Miss Jane make that, and it is just pure. It's wonderful, and it is what my hip replacement doctor told me to start using because I don't want to take pharmaceuticals, and I can't say enough about what it's done to help me with my arthritis. So go and check it out. And also, too, they've got handmade crafts and things like that. Great gifts that you can get. I keep talking about those little bowl cozies that you put your soup in when you put it in the microwave. Everybody needs one of those for winter, and those are great Christmas gifts. They're going to, and remember, too, the Christmas sampler, they're not going to have a booth at the Christmas sampler, but you're going to see Miss Amy walking around in a black apron because she's part of the women's group that brings you the Christmas sampler that's benefiting the historical preservation of the Glen Memorial Women's Club. It is this weekend, Friday, November 4th, Saturday, November 5th. Doors open at 4 p.m. You can get a $10 ticket at that time and go Friday and Saturday. On Saturday, they'll be open from 8:30 to 5:30, and I know I'm going long on her ad, but just so many things going on with Corbin Creek that I want to remind you, and their hours have cut back. They're open 10 to 4 Monday through Saturday right now, 1 to 4 on Sunday. Go to their Facebook page, Corbin Creek Greenhouse Gifts and Gardening Center, to find out all the details about what's happening with them. They do a great job keeping that up to date, and that is a good place for information. But when you go by and see them, you know, tell them U-Turn sent you. Susan Hunt's in the house, and I'm bracing myself because it's about Vietnam. And I don't know if they've told you, but I lost a good friend in Vietnam. And I was just a child, of course, but he was, just get this out here so I don't get emotional, because when I just kind of talk about it off. Anyway, Kenneth Pease was our hired hand. And I was a little girl, and so he had worked for my parents for all of my childhood memories. I don't remember, the farm without Kenneth being there. And so when he was drafted right out of high school, I mean, he was only in country maybe 6 months before we lost him, and it just made such an impact on my life. And you think about the things that change you. That directed me in a way I can't even begin to explain, because it gave me a patriot's heart from the very core. Because when people would protest the wars, I could remember seeing that on the news. My students at Greenbrier, they're like, "You're old." I'm like, "Yes, I am." And but I remember so clearly seeing those protests as a child, and thinking, "How dare you? Kenneth died for that. That's what that Kenneth died for that. How dare you?"
And he was drafted. He didn't have a choice.
Yeah, and so it gave me just a deep patriotic heart, and just a heart for the Vietnam veterans. And I just want to hug every one of them when I see them. I just want to hug them and say, we love you and we honor you. And I'm so excited about this. Tell me about this. I'm just intrigued. There's a play. There's what?
Yeah.
Susan Hunt, right?
Hunter. Yep.
Thank you for joining us.
No, it's my pleasure. Thank you for having me on.
So tell us what this is all about.
Yeah. So this is actually started 56 years ago. My mom's gesture of support for the soldiers, not a yay or nay for the war, but just supporting the soldiers, which many, as you just mentioned, were high school students that were just graduating, and the ink was barely dried on their diploma.
Yep.
And they were drafted and shipped across the world. And so her gesture of support was to basically be a correspondent, be a pen pal. And she was a mother, and a mother of four, and a wife, and one-car family. And so she thought, what can I do? All right, well, I can write to them. So she started this writing campaign she called Operation Morale Booster. And she would write a generic letter to the commanding officers and just say, I'm on a mission to ensure every GI gets mail at every mail call. Please give this other generic letter to any soldier that did not get mail today. And that's how it started.
Wow.
And she personally wrote to about 40 soldiers. But she was responsible for thousands of letters and packages getting over it, because she got schools involved, the church, Cub Scouts, and just started this whole mission, as she called it, in Scituate, Massachusetts. It's a small coastal town in between Boston and Cape Cod. And she, I'm sure, had no idea the impact it was going to have. But for 7 years during that war, she wrote to, personally the 40 soldiers. And we would hear about it from time to time. Now, I was only born during the war, so I don't remember.
Younger. You're definitely younger than me. But I didn't figure you could remember it.
Yeah.
If you did, you look great then.
Well,
go ahead.
I didn't
interrupt you.
Yeah, no, you're fine. So growing up, we had heard about this Operation Morale Booster and this one particular soldier, Bob Johnson, because he actually came to visit us on one of his stateside leaves.
Oh, wow.
But we were too young. I mean, I was just born during it. My brothers were 4 and 5, my sister 6.
Okay.
And so it wasn't until many, many years later, after the war, that I had just a few years ago, I was living here in Tennessee, and I had my mom come live with me because she was battling dementia. And I thought, I could rally her long-term memory, and I can reverse the signs of dementia. We got this. So she came to live with me, and I went up and found the letters from this treasure trove of letters, hundreds of letters, and we started reading through them. And we would stack them. First thing I did is I stacked them, and I had 6 from this soldier, 8 from this soldier, and then I had 77 letters just from Bob Johnson. And so it was quite astounding. And so we started reading through them. And one thing that was fantastic is she did have these portals of recall, and which was fantastic. It was giving me hope, a false sense of hope for the dementia aspect of it. But it did allow me to really understand the gravity of these letters. And so we started reading through them together. Each one was as riveting as the last. And they're from the foxhole, the front lines of the Vietnam War, and from their inner thoughts. So think of this. This has been compared to the discovery of Anne Frank's diary. That was 2 years of her writing to herself during wartime about something we knew little about or nothing about. Similarly, this is 7 years of correspondence from the front lines of the Vietnam War, which we know little about because they were shamed into silence when they came back. Yeah. And so we know little about it, but this is giving us insight as to what was really going on in Vietnam. Wow. and from the soldier's perspective. And you see this gentleman, my mom gets introduced to him via epistolary relationship.
as a 24-year-old. And we see him all the way till 32. We have 7 years of letters just from this one gentleman, because he had 4 tours in Vietnam, which that alone is almost unheard of.
But he survived. I mean, yeah.
Well, it was by God's grace. He was motivated by the children of South Vietnam. He kept saying, I can't feel comfortable knowing that I'm safe in the United States, knowing that those kids are out in the crossfires of that war. And so he kept re-enlisting. And so 7 years of the Vietnam War, and he was a faithful correspondent to my mom. And then even on one of his stateside leaves, he came and visited us, which I will point out for the viewing audience.
I'm going to put this poster up so they can see it too. Well, let's go ahead and stand that up. I think I can put that
great.
up there.
Yeah, and that's another whole aspect of the story.
We'll show that. Let me see the book too. We're going to try here. All right, here we go. Maybe we can kind of put a little display up for people. Maybe.
There you go.
There we go.
There you go. So not only is he a soldier from this, it was a controversial war at the time, coming back to visit us, and we knew nothing about him other than what he wrote in letters, but also, this is back in the 60s. My family's white. He's black. He's single. My mom's married. So there's a lot of reasons this makes it extraordinary. And they had this beautiful relationship. I call them spiritual soulmates because although they had very different backgrounds, they were bonded in their faith. They both had a deep love and reverence for God. And that's thread through the letters. And it certainly bonded their relationship. And so during their 7 years epistolary relationship, they talked about meaty subjects. I mean, think of all that was going on in the 60s. The confluence of activism in the States, and then this controversial war over, in Vietnam. And so they had lots to talk about, and they were very frank with each other. Didn't always agree on everything, but they did as far as the end game, but they spoke to each other with so much respect, and I think that's one of the many things to unpack from this story is that you can have a respectful dialogue with someone who doesn't necessarily agree with you, and therefore that's how we get to the end result. And so there's so much. I've had to proofread this book 7 times just for editing purposes, and every time I get something more out of it. And it's just mind-blowing. So I believe this is divinely orchestrated.
Oh, I do too, just hearing about it. I just see God all over it. Go ahead. I don't mean to keep interrupting you, but I'm just going, oh, wow.
No, and I get that, and it is. And this is a lot even to fill in. But so their letters are amazing. But I'll tell you, what happens after the letters, I discover the letters, is actually more jaw-dropping. So I'm with my mom. We established that these letters are just as riveting. Every single one of them is just amazing. And the soldiers wrote to my mom with so much respect. And you hear sometimes the fear in their writing. Sometimes it's the patriotism. They're just teeming with patriotism, and they so wanted to bring freedom to people that they didn't even know. And then you see the ebbs and flows of the psyche during the war, and then at times, then you even feel the fact that they weren't there for the Vietnamese, they weren't there for America, they were there for each other, and that establishes a brotherhood that I have never witnessed anything similar to this, like to this extent. And to me, that is the gift that they have, that they can taste. They know that brotherhood. When they see, and this will never get old for me, when 2 Vietnam veterans meet out and about, and they just happen to see each other or recognize each other as veterans because they have the hat on or what have you, that bond between them is unlike anything that I've ever seen, and it's something that none of us will ever taste. It's so deep because they know they were there for each other. They were there about bringing each other home. So it's a beautiful community that I've now been embraced by, and they reside in my heart. I have honor and respect for all military active and veterans, but these Vietnam veterans, they have my heart. Yeah, they're extraordinary people. So anyway, to get back, so we get these letters. I said, we need to find out if any of these soldiers are still alive. So I did a quick peruse of the internet, and the only one that I found still with us is Bob Johnson. And Bob Johnson was a gentleman that we had 77 letters from. And he's the one that came to visit us. And here he is on the cover. And so I said, we need to reach out to him. And so I carefully crafted a letter, including, some articles that he had included in some of the letters he wrote back to my mom in the 60s. And I just didn't want to open Pandora's box. I was very careful with how I worded everything, and I didn't know how it was going to be received. And so I sent that letter off, and then I waited. And I waited, and nothing. And every day seemed like it was a week or a month. And then finally, 10 days later, I get an email from his daughter. And evidently, he had received the letters. He received them as intended. He was, crying it many times.
Can't even
wow. It was just, he had just, actually, Melody had said he was just asking about whatever happened to the hunters a week before getting my letter. So, how the Lord works. So he gets my letter. He's thrilled. He sends it on to Melody, his daughter. And then she responded to me saying, he can't respond to you right now. He's had a couple strokes, so he can't write anymore. And his voice is a little bit gargled, hard to understand, and all the things. So of course, I'm going to honor that, respect that. And I was thrilled that I even got connected with Melody. So, of course, we immediately then exchanged numbers. And now
we're sisters.
Yeah, amen to that. We call each other sis. She never had another sibling, and she knew all about us. So, evidently, my mom and him had exchanged Christmas cards for about 15 years after the war. And then life got in the way, and they stopped corresponding. But she heard about the hunters her whole life, and she heard about me because I was born during the war. So they have correspondence, and it's funny because Bob's always hoping I'm going to be a boy, because he's like, we need another strong man in the country, and so surprise, no, I was not a boy. But anyway, so he called me Princess Susan, which is really hilarious because I'm so not a princess.
This is amazing.
So she immediately responded to me as Princess Susan. Anyway, so we have become like sisters, and that's been beautiful. But then immediately I said, I need to give them all these letters. So I went out and made photocopies of all the letters between my mom and Bob. And I came up with these 2 binders filled. These are all just the letters between Bob and my mom. And sent them these binders. And Bob read through them. And he said it was like a kid at Christmas at times, just crying. He had just a beaming smile on. And it was just a beautiful treat for him. And so then he ended up sending them on to Melody, his daughter. Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to give this away for your listeners and viewers, but that's when this jaw-dropping redemption took place. And that's when I said, so she got these letters. She read the first 3, and she texted me saying, Susan, I can't do this. I'm only 3 letters in, and I'm bawling. Thinking my dad was 24 years old. He was so optimistic that this war was going to be over in 3 months. And I'm thinking of what I was doing when I was 24. I was worried about what coffee I'm going to order, the barista. And she's like, I can't do this. And I said, please, Melody, keep reading. You're going to love what you have to read. Your dad's an amazing man. Please keep reading. And then I didn't hear anything. And then 4 hours later, a ping on my phone. I run to it. And sure enough, that's when she told me, Susan, thank you for not only making a copy of the letters, but finding us and sending this to us. This has been a quote-unquote salvation of sorts. And I'm not going to give it all away on her text, but it's in the book. But she said, I need to go make amends with my dad. And she did that. She hopped on a plane and spent 2 weeks with her dad. And so that's just been this. So that's when I said, okay, you know what, Melody, this story doesn't end with my mom and your dad. You are now a part of this story, and this is going to heal countless hearts, souls, and relationships, and generationally. And it has. The letters I get from this book, I get at least a letter a day from an email a day from a reader, mostly veterans, but not all. And the healing that is going on as a result of finding these letters in this book is beyond measure. And I have some people that are inspired. They go up to their attic and get out their letters. I had a widow who just lost her husband to Agent Orange. As a result of the book, she was inspired to, on the anniversary, she got all the letters that he wrote during the Vietnam War, went to the beach and just read them all night long. So she felt like I spent my time with him. And I mean, it's just been astounding. In the healing, I mean, it was a number one new release from Amazon. It was written about in the New York Times, and then it was republished in their Weekender edition because of the as an editor's top pick because it had so much reader engagement. It's just astounding, and it's just actually turned into a director has now turned this into a stage play, and that's what you see there. So we're actually it's been adapted to stage for a national touring production, and we're premiering it here in Nashville on November 18th and 19th. And then we're going to bring it to different counties and different states. We already have a county in Florida wanting us to bring this production there, and then I believe we're coming to Richardson County.
Robertson County.
Robertson County, sorry.
Right.
Yeah, Robertson County. So it's just been astounding, and I'm just going to take this wherever it goes. I heard in your earlier segment you're talking about the Lord directing you and just being open to where he guides you, and I can attest to that. I mean, for 40 some odd years, I was trying to make my plan happen, and I was, forging ahead and working so hard, and just never feeling at peace, never feeling fulfilled. And then I said, okay, Lord, I'm surrendering to you. What do you want me to do? And then I come across these letters, and it has changed the trajectory of my life.
Of course. For such a time as this.
For such a time as this.
That's just been running through my brain the whole time. And we all seek that moment where we just feel in our spirit, this is it for such a time as this. This is your for such a time as this.
Without a doubt. I look back and all the things that I believe he was grooming me for this time. Having a little bit of work in filmmaking, a little bit of work in public speaking, just everything. And I have the heart for them.
Yeah.
But it's just amazing. So these letters, and
I've got to take a break. My portion of the show will be over at 8 because I have to go and teach the kiddos because I'm a teacher now.
Okay.
And again, this is one of those things, trying to figure out where God's guiding you. I'm still not really sure. I know he's got this as a piece of it, but I still haven't really found for such a time as this. But I'm encouraged because I love your story, because God's doing it in all of us if we will be open to it. And there's so many things I want to kind of tell you that are kind of tied to what you're saying, but I got to do an ad. Let me pause for just a second. You know what? Let's talk about Veterans Motorplex. I had Jerry in here earlier this week, and just love this guy. He has got such a heart for God. Talk about a heart for God. He does, and for veterans. They took over Highland Rim Speedway. I think he said it's been about 10, 11 years ago. And they just want it to be a place where families can come and have fun. It's local racing heroes that come out. It is so much fun. He's going to involve some of our students in it. I've got a couple of students that are wanting to go out and do some filming this weekend, and it's going to be a special weekend because because of some things happening in Nashville with racing, they postponed what they had going on at Veterans this past weekend. They were going to do a trunk or treat with race cars. Well, they postponed it because the American 400 was moved to Saturday in Nashville, and they knew that would compete for the audience. So they've moved it to this Saturday. So if you didn't get enough candy, you don't want to miss trunk or treating from race cars, like 50 cars, I think he said. He's expecting a bunch, but they're going to be out there at 4 p.m. So if you want to trunk or treat out of race cars, you got to be at Veterans Motorplex at 4 p.m. on Saturday. The gates will open at 2. 4 p.m. will be the trunk or treat, and then the racing will begin immediately after that. They've got two more nights that you can be a part of this racing season. This coming Saturday, and then next Saturday is going to be the big event. They're getting their winners for the season, and all of that's going to be happening. I'm going to go next Saturday. And they're going to have some demo derby stuff after the races. It's going to be so much fun. If you've not been to the races and seen what they've done with Highland Rim Speedway, it's the old Highland Rim Speedway. And if you want to find them on social media, go to Highland Rim Speedway. They kept that Facebook page because they had thousands and thousands of followers, and just rebranded it as Veterans Motorplex. And he's got up on his banner, Jesus is Lord. So you'll know that you're in the right place. But that's where you can find out everything that's going on at Veterans Motorplex. They've got a $40 ticket. We'll get 8 people in, 6 minor kids and 2 adults for $40. Can't beat that. Great concession stand, great food. You're going to love going to the races. I had no idea how much fun it is, and I can't wait. I'm going for their last night, which is not this Saturday, but the next. But this Saturday, you can trunk or treat out of race cars. When you get out there, be sure and tell them that it's a great time. talking with Susan Hunter, a just breathtaking story. I'm just amazed at this story. As somebody who writes, I'm just, because I write and do all those kinds of things. I've actually got a play in my head, and I'm just, nothing. Well, I don't know. It's whatever. It's what God's put with me. This is just breathtaking to me for so many reasons. Number one, my earliest childhood memory is losing Kenneth Pease as a child. And I talk a lot about the day we got the phone call that he hadn't made it, and we drove to the field to tell my dad. I'm not going to get into it because you've probably heard it before if you listen to me for very long. But I have a dear friend. Her name is Donna Hagen. And her brother, I'll show you his little picture. I don't want to turn. I don't know if you can kind of see my if you peek onto my camera. This is Terry Smith. Terry Smith, and I wrote a blog, a tribute to him called He Might Have Been a Disc Jockey a few years ago because he was a radio operator in Vietnam. And he lost his life whenever they were, because they would hear a pop and they would knew that the attack was coming in, and so they would radio off, stand down, don't come in, and the radio wasn't operating properly, and he ran out on the hill, waved off the helicopter to keep them from coming in and losing that entire, all those men, but he lost his life. And so he's been on, there's a gymnasium named for him up in I forget exactly where, but you can read the story and learn more about that at my website, lavernevivio.com. But it's in the best of the blogs. He might have been a disc jockey, but it's all about Terry. She's local. They owned Springfield Drugs for years and years. That's Donna Hagen. But there's so many stories about her brother. One of the stories, and this is not one I talk about in the blog, they had donated some furniture to our Hispanic ministry, and they went to pick it up, and they inadvertently picked up Donna's hope chest, and nobody realized it. It had all of Terry's letters in it. And my dream is one day somebody's going to realize they've got Donna Hagen's letters from her brother, because they ended up having a big yard sale. And the only reason we found out what happened is because her husband John's diploma, somebody said, I found this at a yard sale. Did you intend for this? And they're like, oh, and they didn't realize that they had gone up in the attic and it was just an accident. Had accidentally gotten this chest that they thought was for sale, and they just thought there was just odds and ends in there. Nobody realized the value, but there was a bundle of Terry's letters that he had written to his sister. Treasure. And I'm telling you guys, as you're going out there and you're meeting Vietnam, as you're telling these stories, please tell that story. Somebody's got those letters.
I will do that.
Somebody's got those letters and don't realize that Terry Smith is Donna Hagen's brother. If you came across her letters that just got misplaced and what a miracle it would be to get those letters back.
That would be a miracle.
It would be a miracle. But when you were talking about letters, I immediately thought of Donna, and I just and that story. And so anyway, but I just want to say that, and I want to go to this play. How can I go? Is it sold out? Can I go? I want to go.
Yes, you can.
Immediately.
Yes, you can.
Because I've got to see this, and I got to read this book. I'm getting it immediately. It's my next read. I just
I brought
finished
you
a
a
book.
cody.
Oh, God bless you. Thank you. You didn't have
Of
to do that. I'd be
course.
glad to buy one.
Of
but
course.
So how can we get it? On Amazon? I'm
Yeah,
guessing?
you can get it on Amazon.
Okay.
Yep. Operation. It's called 77 Letters, Operation Morale Booster Vietnam.
Okay.
And
I got to get this to Donna. I don't know if she can handle it, but we've got an uncle up north that served many tours in Vietnam. He was Green Beret, and bless him. And he needs to see it too. But again, some of these veterans, it's going to be rough. Probably reading
it's tough. So I get probably a 50-50 on. I did this in 1 or 2 sittings.
Yeah.
I read this book in 1 or 2 sittings, and then I get some of the veterans that say, you know what, I had to piece it, have a little piece, digest it, read a couple, more chapters, and so it depends.
Yeah.
But it is an easy read. I have some amazing mentors, and if I could just some of the mentors that I have, just so you know, this is not just me saying this is a great story. One of my mentors is Jeff Arch. He is the writer of Sleepless in Seattle, so one of the most iconic rom-coms, and he loves this story. In fact, he said this has the potential of being highly commercial and deeply emotional.
Mm-hmm. I see it as a movie soon. I think absolutely it's going. Just the way you've unpacked it. Oh yeah, you'll see this on the big screen.
Without a doubt. And almost every reader says that this
absolutely.
needs to be a movie.
Absolutely.
And the other thing that Jeff said was that before movie, he said, I think you should take this to the stage. And so he's
go.
actually the brainchild for this being adapted to stage. Soon after I published the book, I knew this was my next step, stage. So I was going to different shows locally because I did want to keep it Nashville centric. And I went to this show, It's a Wonderful Life, one of my favorite movies of all time. And so I've seen different variations of It's a Wonderful Life. So I went to this one put on by Actors Point Theater, and the director is Greg Wilson. And I loved how he was so creative in how he portrayed the story, and yet also kept it very simple. And that's one of the things
Yeah.
that Jeff Arch says is keep it simple, keep the focus on the letters. And so I loved what Greg did, and afterward I went up to him and I introduced myself and I said, are you also a playwright? And he said, well, I've written a few originals. And I said, okay, here's my book. I want to make this into a play, a stage play. I'd like you to take a read and tell me what you think. And the very next day he said, I'm halfway done and I'm in. I love it. I can already see how I want to start this. And I said, okay,
I love
okay,
it.
finish the book. And then let's meet when I get back. I was on a trip at the time, and I said, and we'll meet. So sure enough, he finished it that day, and we met for coffee. And then every week thereafter, we'd meet 2 hours a week at a coffee shop and just work on it. And a year and a half later, here we are.
Wow.
And so so we're premiering it here November 18th and 19th. You can get tickets at actorspointtheater.com. And also Vietnam veterans, it's free to you and your plus one.
I love it.
Yeah, so we really want to make sure that all Vietnam veterans are able to attend. So there's nothing that prohibiting them from attending. So we have made it free, and we have a special code for you all. And you can email me at susanhunterauthor@gmail.com.
Say it again.
susanhunterauthor@gmail.com. And email me, and I can give you that code so that your ticket and your guest ticket will be free. It is also discounted for all veterans and active military. That's another code. So again, Susan Hunter Author for that code. And it's going to be enjoyable to all. And the other thing is, I have a couple other names to drop. So Tab Murphy, one of the most prolific screenwriters in all of Hollywood. He's written all of Disney's Brother Bear, Atlantis, Hunchback of Notre Dame, countless. And he's one of my mentors. And he said in the group, Susan, writers search a lifetime for a story like this.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously.
Right, you were just talking about that.
Oh, yeah,
And
absolutely.
he said, this one found you. Now it's your job not to screw it up.
I love that.
I said, no pressure.
I love that.
Yeah, so that is that's my mission, and I want to bring it to all formats and not screw it up on either one, on any of them. And then the last one is David Paul Kirkpatrick. He was president of Paramount Pictures for most of his career. He has since retired, and now he's giving back to that next sea of writers. And he's one of my mentors, and he saw that I was going to be self-publishing, and this was 2 years ago, self-publishing the book, and he called me up and said, Susan, I see on Facebook you're planning on self-publishing. I think that's a mistake. This is too big of a story. You need to get with the big five. And I said, okay, David, open up a door for me. I'll walk through any door you open. I said, but I'm a new writer, new author. They're not answering my calls.
Of course.
And so he was so gracious in offering this. But what it looked to be was they have a schedule, and this wasn't going to be put out until Q3 of 2022, so this year. So 2 years later, I'd have to wait. And I just said, you know what, I can't wait. I said, our Vietnam veterans are dying at a faster rate than other population of veterans. And that was my original plight, was really for restoring their honor and bringing peace to them. And but then, if you recall, summer 2020, our country was burning down. There was a lot of hurt surfacing, and then some of that was propagated. And I have proof in these letters that we have come a long way in our racial harmony. And so I was on an added sense of urgency that no, this needs to get out. To our country's sake and for our veterans' sake. And so I did self-publish, and I figured God dropped this on my lap. He's going to open the doors. And sure enough, he's been opening the doors, ever since I published.
Honestly and truthfully, I've got one book that's published by a local publisher, and I had not fully self-published, but I think you did the right thing, because when you have a publisher involved, they own the rights. They own the rights. And my publisher is wonderful, but I can't even record a book. I can't do a audio book without their consent. It's my story. It's my story.
Yeah.
And that's hard. And while I'm thrilled that they saw the value in what I wrote, and that is validating for an author. And so you had them interest, you had the validation. You don't need them to publish it, and you release the rights. You have the rights. God gave it to you. And so I absolutely think you did the right thing. As somebody who's, been there, and not in one of the big fives. I know, I get that. And there's so many that would, tell you, but look what, okay. What is the Shack was self-published, y'all. Just saying.
And
just
The Martian.
saying.
And
Huh?
The Martian. The Martian was self-published.
Yes,
Maybe
exactly.
Wire.
So yeah, no.
So if the Lord wants it out there,
you better
it'll get out
believe it.
there.
If it's of Him, you can't stop it. If it's not of Him, you can't make it happen.
Right.
Not the way you want to.
And there's so much beauty
yeah.
in this. I mean, if you take a look at this, is the type of letters he wrote.
Wow.
I mean, this is a soldier in a foxhole writing at his
bless him.
bedroll, by candlelight, and he just wrote so much. He's an incredibly intelligent man. He had to leave school in the 9th grade, so he's not formally educated past 9th grade at this time, but he had to leave school. He was a one of 7 children, a fatherless family. He had to go out there and become a boxer to earn money to help provide for the family. And so then he ended up enlisting in the Army a couple years later, also to provide for the family. But he was well read, and so his writing is incredible. Not only is he intelligent and insightful, but his writing and the way he expresses himself is extraordinary. And I think that's a tip of the hat to reading and the importance of reading. So what he says is amazing. Having him take us through the trip of 7 years of that war, very misunderstood war, and you're hearing from the soldiers himself. And he was infantry. He was special forces. He was infantry. You're hearing it all. But he also had a wonderful balance of telling about the operations and what was going on in that regard, but then also, and that would attract my dad's attention, and he enjoyed that part of the letters as well. But then also, he really connected with my mom at a deep level, just talking about philosophies and just the importance of the support at home. And whether if they didn't get the country support as a collectively, they got their support from their families, and how important that was for the soldier while they were serving, but then also when they returned. That support they got from their families made all the difference.
Just to give you an example of the detail, okay, she handed me one of the original letters, which I'm almost like my I don't want my fingertips to mess it up. But the first thing, and I opened it up and just random, and it just, when I talk about details, this is a hard detail, but in his words, he says, an hour later, we had 47 men wounded, 15 killed. The battle lasted 2 days. Even our wounded fought to the death. We killed 400 VC Viet Cong in 24 hours. I mean, wow.
Yeah,
Who
extraordinary.
that young has that kind of an experience?
Right. And they're imprinted when they experience that at age 17, 18, 19 years old. That's an imprint that
Good
they can
Lord.
never outlive. They just
No.
have to learn to manage.
Yeah.
And it is just extraordinary. And I think anybody that reads this will have a better understanding of who a Vietnam veteran is, not just what they did. When they served, it's who they are and what they've
Amen.
endured and what they've protected us from. They still continue to protect us from. We could never understand what they've been through, what they've endured, what they've witnessed. You can't unsee what you've seen. You can't undo what you did. But they did it with honor, and they came back, and out of honor, they did protect us.
You bet. You bet they did.
They're an extraordinary community of
are.
people, and if I can bring any amount of honor and healing to them, that's my mission, and I'm honored to have been appointed to this mission.
Oh, God bless you for such a time as this. For such a time as this. Oh, my goodness. Susan Hunter, 77 letters. This is a play. It's at Cornerstone Church up in Nashville, November 18th and 19th. You can go to actorspointtheater.com, actorspointtheater.com to get tickets. I will be doing that. I don't know what's on my calendar, but I'm going to do my very, very, very best to be there because I want to see this. This is free to Vietnam veterans. There's a discount for veterans. My son served in Afghanistan, so he is a Army infantry, and I'm going to tell him about it because I think he's going to want to go because he's very close to Uncle Cooch, is the one that served in Vietnam, our uncle up north, and I think he's just going to want to kind of do that maybe in his honor. I don't know. I wish Uncle Cooch was down here where we could take him. But we'll certainly. Do you have an audiobook? You need to get this out on audio because I don't think Uncle Cooch would read it, but he might listen to it. Do you have an audiobook?
Well, great question. Actually, I'm working on one now, and I was able to secure the 2 actors that are playing both young Joan and Bob in the play are going to do the audible.
Awesome.
So it's going to be extraordinary because they have nailed their personalities. They've asked me a lot
That's
about
wonderful.
both of the characters.
That's perfect.
So it's great. One thing I'd like to give to you for your uncle. This is a challenge coin that I designed for the Vietnam veterans that I meet along the way. It's a welcome
Uncle Cooch,
back.
this is coming to you.
Yep.
Wow.
Welcome back, the bravest generation. And the bravest generation comes from akin to Tom Brokaw's labeling the World War II veterans the greatest generation, and for good reason. I took the liberty to name or to label the Vietnam veterans the bravest generation.
I love it.
They had 3 different wars in a sense. They had the war that they were sent to. They had the war that they came back to. And then now 50 years later, they're needing the courage to open up, and some for the very first time.
How can we get these coins?
Well,
to hand out to veterans.
Yeah, well, I mean, I have some. If you have a veteran, and Lee Marie saw that when I met somebody at the event that I was over with, that I attended over the weekend selling my books, if they were a Vietnam veteran themselves, or if their father, uncle, or what have you was a Vietnam veteran, I hand them a coin and ask them to give it to them as a token of appreciation from a grateful country.
Well, that's incredible. What a mission you're on. God bless you.
Yeah, he has blessed me.
Thank you for saying yes to your calling.
No,
absolutely.
It's truly been
wow,
an honor.
Lee Marie. God bless you. How in the world did you find this story? I just love this woman. She just brings so many wonderful things to me, and I've got to go teach the kids because it's 8 o'clock, and we're going to slide into the Ghost Show. But I do have one more commercial I need to go. I am so honored to meet you. So
Likewise.
thankful to meet you. What a beautiful, beautiful story.
Well, thank you for having an interest.
Oh,
and
my
thank you for having
pleasure.
me on.
And we're going to do this again because this is going to be a movie. And
Yep.
I want to just watch this thing just explode across the country. And here's the thing. You're talking about the racial healing. I'm from a biracial family. My sister married an African-American in the 70s. I have a 40-something-year-old half-black nephew. So I've dealt with the racial division of this country for so long. And it breaks my heart because we didn't used to be this way. And we've overcome it again and again and again. And people who have an agenda keep reigniting that fire of separate, of division. And it's just evil, and it's of the evil one, and we got to stop it. We are the same in anything, and I get the hint from you that this is going to help that healing as well.
Oh, without a doubt.
Okay.
Yeah, I've
And so-
been hired by 2 companies to come in and do an author presentation on the diversity and inclusion aspect of
Praise
it.
the Lord, because I'm telling you guys, the people who see that division, they're evil. They're evil, and they're using it. They're using it to conquer and divide us, and it's got to stop. And then if this is a piece of that, praise the Lord.
It absolutely is.
And from families that has walked in this in our family, thank God, because I can't wait to hear the whole story. I got to do an ad. Okay, this is for Barry and Rebecca Richards with the Exit Realty Garden Gate team. My friends in real estate, if you are looking to do anything in real estate, whether you're buying or selling, you just need help. Barry is just a wonderful marketer. He was a vice president of a marketing company for 17 years, a media marketing company. He's going to help me with my audio video class. He's already been there flying drones around my classroom. It's so cool. But he is an expert. He is a Zillow certified photographer, licensed and insured drone pilot. Does the 360-degree virtual reality home tours. He taught him how to do that too. He'll get you up on Realtor.com. And then he's married to sweet Rebecca, who has been she was one of the first in the area to be a seniors real estate specialist. They are a great couple. They work with the Exit Realty Garden Gate team, and they're saying, hey, if you want to be a realtor, come on in and join our team. And also, they would love to bring you in that regard and get you trained. Neither one came out of a real estate background. She was a radiologist. She came out of a radiology background. Again, he was a marketer. And somebody said, you'd be great in real estate. And they found out it was a perfect fit for them. It may be for you as well, but if you're coming to the table, buying or selling, They specialize in Robertson County properties, but they also buy and sell in the surrounding counties across the state line up in Kentucky. And you can connect with them at sellwithbecky.com, sellwithbecky.com, or buy, B-U-Y, robertsoncounty.com. Call them 615-504-7425, 615-504-7425. Let them know you turned sent you. And as I make my way out, I thank my guests again, Susan Hunter and Lee Marie, for bringing all of this to me. Oh, my goodness. Stay tuned for the Go Show, because you're going to hear more, and this is a phenomenal story. This is 1100 WSGI. God bless. Have a fabulous day.